We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. Those were the days, and that smiling face is Ward George, ready to take us on another mystery tour through the histories and annals of Newcastle United, and we're getting ever closer to the final one. I think we're well into the noughties now. Where are we, George?
2008-9.
Wow, here we are, 2008-9. So as always, I will close my mic off and hand over to George.
Yes, hello everybody. As always, I like to put people in the picture about what was happening elsewhere, not just in football. If you're a movie buff, and that's the team, the team picture, which shows the chaos that was this season. I think that's the only word you can use to describe the season. Anyway, best movies, The Dark Knight was top of the pops in the cinema. Iron Man, Wall-E, Let the Right One In, and in Bruges. It's quite a list. I haven't seen all of them, but seen a couple of them. I saw The Dark Knight, but it wasn't my style, I'm afraid. I like the old-fashioned Batman. And in music, well, there's some great tunes. I mean, Alexander Burke with Hallelujah was top for a long time, and then Hero, the X Factor finalists, got into the top 10, and Mercy by Duffy, another show member, a talent show member, Duffy, and Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry. Some quite nice music there, but just nice to think what was going on. And sometimes the memories of the music are more surprised than I am the memories of the football. Anyway, to the football. Chaos is the word I've used, and I mean from day one it was interesting to see who was in and who was out, and who was in: Danny Guthrie, Bassong, Fabrizio Colaccini, Gutierrez, Cisco. There's a name to conjure with. Peter Lovenkrands, Kevin Nolan, and Ryan Taylor. Some great signings, but some sad ones going out as well. Rosenthal, Peter Ramage, Stephen Carr, Emre, Abdoulaye Faye, James Milner, Shea Given, names that are really heroes of Newcastle United. And a bit as the season wore on, we lost Fraser Foster, Tim Krul. That's 3 international goalkeepers in one season. And Ken Kazenga Loa disappeared to Portsmouth. Well, he went to Doncaster first, and he ended up at Portsmouth. But major changes structurally in the side. And of course, off the pitch, we had Mr. Derek Lambias as the chairman. and we went through 3 managers and 2 coaches and two captains, and it tells you what sort of season it was when they say our top goal scorer was Michael Owen with 10 goals. I mean, it makes me shudder when I hear that. 10 goals. As somebody who's spent seasons where the 2 main strikers both scored over 30. I mean, it just beggars belief. But it shows the sort of chaos we were in at the time, and the club was in generally. However, we went to a usual batch of friendlies at the beginning of the season, with Hartlepool a 4-1 win, and Doncaster a 1-0 loss, Hertha Berlin a 1-0 loss, Real Mallorca a loss, Eindhoven 2-2 draw, and Valencia a 2-1 win, which you've got to give, at least got the troops warmed up for the season. And then we go to the first match of the season. Of course, who was it against? Against the champions, Manchester United. It couldn't be a harder start of the season. And I must say, I viewed this with some trepidation, because we had a brand new centre back in Fabrizio Collicini, unknown as far as I was concerned, and lots of others as well. And only been at the club days when he went into this big match, and that caused some concern. I don't know why we were worried. Rooney never got a kick. he played brilliantly, played brilliantly for me. And instead of getting what we thought might be a bit of a runaround, we ended up with a very, very decent draw. In fact, we scored, and there's part of the game, a picture from the game. That's Rooney, and Martins put in the lead in 22 minutes. And Stephen Fletcher came back for Manchester in 24, and that's how it stayed till half time. And everybody was expecting the Manchester United explosion after half time. Well, it never came. They weren't allowed to come, because Newcastle defence just held them off. And as I say, for me, Collicini was outstanding that day, considering that he was so new at the club and new to the Premiership. He did a fantastic job. So we start off with a 1-1 draw at Manchester United, with, of course, as usual at Manchester, 75,000 people in the stadium for the first game of the season, which says, what you expect there. We then come home to a home game against Bolton Wanderers. Bolton not regarded as great shakes at this juncture by any of the pundits. They have a decent football side, but a one that's aging is the best way to describe it. And it's a good day. It's Saturday and a 3:00 kickoff, which is great, very traditional. Our team, given by defended by Taylor, Collicini, Zogio Milner, Butt, Guthrie, Gutierrez, Martins, and Duff, which was the team that played Manchester United and did so well. And Bolton with Jääskeläinen, Steinson, Cahill, Andy O'Brien, Samuel, Joey O'Brien, Nolan, Mumba, Taylor, Davis, and Elander. Some good players, but number of them really on the wrong side of 30 to be any sort of threat. Decent game, first half, lots of excitement, but no goals. I think every bit of woodwork that could be hit was hit. Again, considering who were playing, we were nearly a full house at St James's, and everybody wondering where the excitement was going to come from in the game in the second half, and it looked like it might going to peter out to a 0-0 draw. And my memory of this is that on 71 minutes, Michael Owen scored one of the better goals he scored for Newcastle United. He was played through by Martins, and he got to the corner of the penalty area and just picked his spot to the opposite side of the goal, and Jääskeläinen just didn't even get a hand near to it. So 71 minutes, 1-0, and that's how it played out. It wasn't a bad game, but neither side seemed either to want to score a goal or were able to score a goal. It was that sort of game. So then we come home to go away rather to Coventry, the second round of the League Cup, and at the Rioch Arena. And the commentator who writes this says it was dry and muggy. Well, may well have been. Anyway, we go to Coventry City, who are a tidy side and always play good football. And we go with a strong side, the side that would just played 2 league games, and the only change is that Owen's dropped out and Jeremy goes in, but it's not long before Owen's back on because Jeremy picks up an injury. So it's going well. We get Nzogua putting us to the head in 21 minutes, and then right on the death, and then Milner make it 2-0 at 38 minutes, and then right on the death at half time, 45 minutes plus 1. It says here just before the half time whistle, Morrison scores a beautiful goal. He dribbles through our defence and makes them look silly, and makes it 2-1. And it looks like it's going. We're playing well, and seem to be little that they're going to do to frighten us, to take the game off us. But it's not for the first time. We contribute to our own downfall, and right at the death, 90 minutes plus 4 it says on here, which is well past the final whistle. The lad called Dan, big centre back, heads in from a corner that shouldn't have been typical. It shouldn't have been a corner, as my memory. It should have been a goal kick, but they got the corner and made the most of it, and it went into extra time. So having been 2-1 up at half time, here we are at the final whistle, 2-2. So we go into extra time, and we take the game. We take the game, really. We're not going to give this one away. And on 97 minutes of the extra time, Michael Owen scores a neat goal from a corner. A simple tap in, really, after the ball bounced around the penalty area like a ping pong ball. He just side footed it in, and we go home with a 3-2 win after extra time. A decent game of football, one which I think anybody that was there would have enjoyed. And the important thing is through to the next round of the cup. We're then away to Arsenal, which is always a big challenge, and the conditions, according to the reporter here, says sweltering. Well, I wasn't actually at that match, but it was it's 30th of August, so could well have been, but it was an evening kick-off, 5:30, which we're starting to get more of by this time as the television take over the running of football, basically. We got the same strong team out, and to go to the Emirates. I'm sure Miaj, every now and again I keep saying Highbury. And first half kicks off, and it looks like we're going well, but then on 18 minutes we give away what's a silly penalty, typical of penalty where a forward goes back to help the defence, and the first thing he does is he gives a penalty away, and it was Charles Nzogua brought down Van Persie, and so he gets up and bangs it in. So on 18 minutes we're 1 down, but we're still holding our own on general play. It doesn't look like we're in for 1,000 like some people thought we were. But on 41 minutes, just before half time, Van Persie scores a beautiful goal and makes it 2-0 at half time. But the optimists in the crowd, and there's lots of those, we're quite sure that if we got one, we could come back. But that soon disappeared on 59 minutes when Danielson one of their stars, Arsenal stars, scored on 59 minutes and made it 3-0. We never give up, but there was no way we were going to get back into that at Arsenal with their team. I mean, with the Almunia in goal, Sanga, Torre, Gallas, Clichy, Abouye, Fabregas, Danielson, Nastri, Adebayor and Van Persie, all on that side. A side of international talent, really, and very, very good football inside. And playing in the style that Arsene Wenger had them playing in for many years. So 3-0 loss, which wasn't a disgrace, but a bit disappointing. It was 3-0. I think they were worth a bit more than 3-0 suggested. However, it's early days, and we're not looking over our shoulder in the league yet. So then
this is where we have the big. This is where we have the big managerial change in this 2 week spell off. There's rumours circulating Tyneside that Kevin Keegan is going to leave the club, and he does, doesn't he, Georgie? He departs.
Yes, I mean, there's so many rumours that, I mean, not least that at some stage during that turmoil of 2 weeks, he decked Wise. so history says that's what the whispers were, and all sorts of other things happening. The transfer rubbish about the lad from Germany, who Keegan wanted to sign, and Ashley wouldn't. I forget what the lad's name was. You great German player. Anyway, it was just chaos. As I said, it was inevitable that all sorts of weird things were going to happen. And of course, with somebody like Ashley in charge and Lambias as chairman, they were going to make it even weirder, as they proved to do. I mean,
I always found that story about him in Wise. I just think Kevin would have decked him with words. I don't think he would have ever done anything physical.
No.
I think with Kevin, Kevin was just so disappointed that it just didn't say, it didn't do what it said on the tin. He was given a promise he was with John Hall, and then just decided, you know what? After a few discussions with the board, this isn't for me. And of course, it led to Chris Hughton coming in as the caretaker.
That's right. And the one thing you can say about Kevin Keegan is two things. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's a man of honor. Mm-hmm. If Kevin Keegan says he's going to do, he's does, and that's why he was so up with John Hall the first time. Mm-hmm. It wasn't he wanted to leave Newcastle, but he'd put his name to something that he felt John Hall was reneging on for the fans, and it was his name that. His name was on the brochure, not John Hall's, and so and the narrative of him decking Wise suits some areas, but the important thing is it was just sheer bloody chaos.
It was, and in the midst of all this, before the next game, which you're going to take us into, Mike Ashley announces for the first time that he's going to sell Newcastle United, and of course he appointed Keith Harris from Seymour Pierce to sell the club. So that's it. But we'll get back to the football. I'll keep you up to date with the political stuff. But Chris Hughton is now the caretaker manager.
The chaos abounded, didn't it? It was just incredible. Anyway, we get back to playing football, and we have a home match against Hull. And you're right, it's 2 weeks later, September the 13th now since the Arsenal game. And we play Hull at St James's Park. They're not playing great shakes, and everybody thinks that we should turn them over. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't always go like that, unfortunately. And we got a good team out. Young Edgar's given a run out in the defence. Shea's back in goal. But otherwise, strong side. And of course, a young man called Cisco gets his first team debut for Newcastle as well. It just reflects on what was going on off the field, on the field, because within 34 minutes, and King from Hull makes it 1-0 with a penalty. And everybody thinks, well, that's 1-0 at half time, but we'll come back in the second half and put that right. Well, we didn't. In 55 minutes, King scored again, gets his second goal. And we on the wrong end of a thrashing here, except that on 82 minutes, there's a sort of a ping pong event in the whole penalty area, and Cisco manages to tap the ball in from nowhere, and we get the 2-1. But even at 2-1, we never looked like we're going to win this game or even get into this game. It really was a poor game. And of course, the frustration started to show when on 90 minutes, Danny Guthrie gets himself sent off for stupidity. Really, he fouls somebody and then argues with the referee, and the net result is, instead of a yellow card, it becomes a red card, and he goes off. Not that that's going to interfere with the result of the game much, but yeah, 2-1 loss to Hull was very, very disappointing, and starts to make us look over our shoulder about where we are in the league. And we're now off to quite a tough away game at West Ham. West Ham, a good side, one that's been tipped to do something in the league this time. So they've been busy in the transfer market. We send the same team that played to Hull, given Edgar Taylor, Colaccino and Zogby, Jeremy Kappa, Butt, Duff, Owen and Cisco. And the West Ham side is full of all-stars, really. Green, who was being tipped for England, goalkeeper, Barami, Upson, who they bought from Birmingham, I think. Everton. And Neil, Ilunga, Fabert, Noble, Parker, Etherington, and Di Michelle and Joe Cole. And of course, Noble went on to play hundreds of games for West Ham and ended up as the captain. He only retired recently, but he was an up-and-coming star then, and you could see it was coming. First half, we don't look like we're in it really. We're playing, but we're not getting anywhere near their goal. But they are getting near us. And Di Michelle, on 8 minutes, gives them a 1-0 lead. 37 minutes makes it 2. And everybody's hoping, well, let's come back at half time. Well, we don't get the chance, because 53 minutes, Etherington makes it 3, and we're clearly out of this game. 67 Owen gives you a consolation, but that's all it is. It doesn't. There's nothing in it that says that we're going to come back in this game. We really are 3-1 down. So we're again looking over our shoulder at the wrong end of the league, instead of wondering what was happening next. And
then a new manager comes in, George.
Exactly.
The guy who was on that wonderful team photograph that you showed at the start.
Yeah. Joe Kinnear. Well, I'll credit Joe Kinnear with one thing. He got me onto social media. I was so upset with what I was hearing him say and how he was behaving. I had to express myself, and when you said, "Well, get on social media and tell them what you think," so I joined everything. I was on nothing, and all of a sudden I was on everything, and writing screeds of stuff about this idiot that was being appointed as manager as Newcastle United, and that foul-mouthed interview he gave. I mean, really and truly, was just set the tone, didn't it? I mean, the whole place was just in an uproar, and as I said, it upset me so much. I was determined to have me say, and the only way I could have me say, Neil said, "Well, get on social media and tell them what you think," and then I did. But never mind. We'll remember him for lots more things than that, I'm sure. Actually, the irony is there were times when he spoke sense.
Yeah.
About football, particularly. If you could calm him down and just talk about the game and his experiences in the game, the man did occasionally talk sense. But when he was talking about Newcastle United, he seemed to get all fired up and just couldn't speak without uttering all these expletives. I mean, it was just incredible.
Yeah.
But never mind. as I say, chaos reigns, and he was certainly part of it. So next one is the next round of the League Cup, the third round of the League Cup against Tottenham at home, and well, the League Cup's never been a great haven for us, but a run of some sort would lift the gloom around the place, I think, and so people went to St James's with a hope that we might do something against Tottenham, because Tottenham were good, but they weren't being touted as champions as they had been in previous seasons, and full house again nearly for a League Cup match, which is unusual for Newcastle United. But I think until recently that was the biggest League Cup attendance that we'd had. It was 30,000, which we didn't get in those days. Yeah, we're lucky if we get 20,000. Anyway, Tottenham came, and the reporter on this stuff says conditions wretched. Well, I think he's talking about the football and not about the weather, because it was an awful game. It was an awful game. Not a lot of skill level. Not a lot of goal chances. It was a very predictable 0-0 at half time. We come out for the second half, and Spurs certainly brightened their game up. And 62 minutes, Pavlyuchenko scores, and then on 66 minutes, O'Hara makes it 2. And it looks like we're out of it, but we were never really in it, to be perfectly honest. Our team was predictable, given Jeremy, Taylor, Colaccini, Basong, Kappa, Butt, and Zogia, Owen, Duff, Martins, and Tottenham team, Gomez in goal, Kokoluka, King, Woodgate, Eto, Lennon, Genus, Zokora, O'Hara, Bale, and Pavlenko. It's tidy side, but not a side that should have frightened us. Anyway. Upshot was we go out of the Carling Cup with a 2-0 loss to Tottenham, and a pretty miserable game is my memory anyway. And now we come back to league football with a home game against Blackburn, and surely we can recover and do something against Blackburn. They're no great shakes, really. They're not doing anything special. And we certainly should have the team to be able to take them, but such as Newcastle United, and the conditions, the reporter says, warm, sunny, and pleasant, especially away from St James's Park, which gives you an idea what he thinks about the game. We put out our usual side, given Basong, Taylor, Colaccini, Jeremy, Butt, Duff, Zogia, Cisco, and Owen. So Cisco's come back into the frame. Blackburn with Brown, Simpson, Nielsen, Samba, Warnock, Emerton, Olsen, Kerimajulu, Derbyshire, Santa Cruz, and Villanueva. Tidy football side, but not a side that should be beating us. The only trouble is that they haven't been told that. They come in from a corner in 31 minutes, and Samba, the big centre half, scores with a header. And on 41 minutes, just before half time, Santa Cruz gets a second, so they go in 2-0. We never looked like coming back. There was a bit of good play in the middle of the second half, and from that, Michael Owen scored with a penalty, having been tripped himself by Derbyshire in the penalty area or a corner, I remember, and he takes the penalty himself, and it becomes 2-1. But that doesn't look like it energizes the team to come back at all. They just sit back and kind of accept the 2-1 defeat, which is more than disappointing. So it's we're heading in the wrong direction in the league at the moment, and that's a great worry. I know. I remember how people were already then expressing great concerns that about what was going on. Next game is a away game to Everton, and at Goodison Park, and the description of the reporter in this about the conditions I can't read because it's rather rude. The last word's lovely anyway, but but we do, at least in this game, give an account of ourselves. You know, a nasty little man called Arteta puts Everton in the lead with a penalty, and then just before half time, Fellaini scores, him of the long hair, with the second goal. And right on half time, we get a free kick, and Ryan Taylor shows his expertise in that area and makes it 2-1, and almost as the half time whistle went. And then after that, it's quite a good game, end to end stuff, some good football, and 47 minutes, not long after half time, Damien Duff makes it 2-2, and we're in this game, but that's how it stayed to the end. Everton side, well, Howard, the American goalkeeper, Hibbert, Jagielka, Lescott, Baines, Arteta, Osman, Fellaini, Pinar, Saha, and Yakubu. And they're a tidy football side with those talented internationals in the side, but no more talented than ours. I mean, we're giving Taylor, Colaccini, Kakapa, Enrique, Jeremy, Butt, Guthrie, Nzogia, Owen, and Duff. And 2-2, good draw. I mean, and they really did have a go at this. It got a bit spicy towards the end, and Zogbia, Butt, and Jeremy got booked for us, and Fellaini, who was always likely to get booked, got booked for Everton. But we go with a 2-2 draw, which at least gives us a bit of breathing space in the league, and although it isn't that much space, it takes the pressure off a little bit to get a point on the board, if nothing else. We're then home to Manchester City. Now, games against City are always entertaining, in my view. Ever since I can remember going to the matches, City always seem to give a good account of themselves against Newcastle and vice versa. And the conditions of the reporter says chilly but heartwarming. I think he's talking about both the weather and the football, because it was a good football game. The both sides playing entertaining football. Robinho for Manchester City scores with a penalty on 14 minutes, and just before half time, Shola Amiobi scores on 44 to make it 1-1. We go in 1-1 at half time, and then we get a fluke goal at halfway through the second half, about 65 minutes, and a ricocheted shot from Shola hits Dunn, a big centre half, on the back of the head and deflects past the goalkeeper, who's Joe Hart at the time, and we look like we're going to get a 2-1 win, and then somebody who we get to know even better, Ireland, playing for them, plays a nice 1-2 with Vincent Kompany, and it's 2-2 on 86 minutes, and there's no way after that we're going to get a winner, because they're playing as hard as we are. In fact, if anything, a little bit harder. Our side, given by Taylor, Colaccini, Basong, Guthrie, Jeremy, Butt, Duff, Martins, and Amiobi, and Manchester City, Hart, Richards, Ben Haim, Dunn, Gallardo, Wright Phillips, Kompany, Haman, Ireland, Joe, and Robinho. A tidy side with lots of footballers in it, but a 2-2 draw, I think in all honesty, it was better than an ordinary result, because this is the one where there was a controversial sending off of our fullback by. and we played nearly the whole of the second half with 10 men. So to get that and come with a 2-2 draw against Manchester City was a good effort, and a point on the board to stop us sliding down the league a little bit more. We then have our first derby of the season, the away game at the Stadium of Light, and everybody, of course, really interested in this because we're not very high up in the league, and they're not much better. In fact, I think we're just about next to each other. It's so bad, and the two sides. Stadium of Light, and the conditions are, as this reporter says, gloomy. Well, you know what's coming next, don't you?
Never lost there in 28 years, George, before this
No,
game.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. And it's Sissy scores for them on 20 minutes. Shearer scores for us on 30 minutes, and it's 1-1 at half time. And it is a 1-1 draw. It's a good even game. And second half, it's the same, but nobody looks like they're going to score. It becomes a bit dour, and it's Kevin Richardson scores on 75, a shot from the edge of the penalty area, which went through a whole crowd of defenders to give Shearer given no chance at all, really, and so they end up with the 2-1 win. Our side is given by Taylor, Colaccini, Bassong, Jeremy, Guthrie, Butt, Duff, Amiobi, and Martins, and should be every bit as were able to overturn the Sunderland side. Full up in goal, Chimbonda, Ferdinand, Collins, McCartney, Malbranck, Whitehead, York, Richardson, Sissy, and Diouf. And you know, we should have been in with a shout with that game, but what we should and shouldn't do are two different things. And so we come away with a miserable 2-1 loss. Next, we're at home to West Brom. West Brom again, a side we should be turning over because they're languishing at the wrong side of the end of the table with us. And it's a Tuesday 7:45 kickoff, and one which 40-odd thousand at the game. 46,000, yeah, which is not bad considering where we are in the league. And we go off like a steam train. It looks like we're going to take this one and really do something with it. We get a penalty on 9 minutes when Martins is dropped in the area by their defender Robinson, and Barton takes the penalty and makes it 1-0. And then on 42 minutes, Obafemi Martins scores a peach of a goal to make it 2-0. So we go in at half time at 2-0 and expecting more fireworks after the break. Well, there was more fireworks, but they came from West Brom, not from Newcastle. West Brom really rolled their sleeves up and had a go at this. And on 65 minutes, Miller scores and makes it 2-1. And makes everybody in the Gallagher get a sweat on because at 2-1 we didn't look very clever. However, we held on to the 2-1 win, which was what was important. Unchanged team given by Taylor, Colaccini, etc. But the West Brom team has Carson in goal, Zavaloon, Donk, Olsen, Robinson, Coren, Morrison, Brunt, Valero, Greening, and Bednar, and tidy side, but not a side that should really be troubling us. And we get the 2-1 victory, which is what matters. And so we slide gently up the league a little bit. And we very soon back home because we've got another home match against Aston Villa, and Aston Villa playing well, being touted by some pundits to be upsetting the top of the league, and they're a tidy side playing some good football. pretty dour first half, 0-0, nothing really exciting in the first half, is my memory. It was a struggle to find something to talk about. But second half, it woke up very nicely, and the man that woke it up was Obafemi Martins. He suddenly turned it on. On 60 minutes, he scores the first goal, 83 minutes the second, and we're 2-0 up, and never looked like losing after that, because every time Martins gets the ball, he's either shooting for a goal or they're upsetting him, and we're getting very dangerous free kicks from it. So a good win against Aston Villa. A good Aston Villa side. I mean, Friedel in goal, Luke Young, Kuela, Larson, Shorey, Milner, Rio Coker, Barry, Ashley Young, Agbon Lahore, Carew. I mean, this is November 2008, and Ashley Young's still playing for Everton. At that time, he was an England player, Ashley Young. But yeah, a good win, a good win. They never looked like they were going to turn us over. However, it did get a bit spicy, and Barry, Luke Young, and Sidwell got booked for Aston Villa, and Barton, Martins, and Amiobi got booked for us. Amiobi for pushing the goalkeeper over on memory records at a corner. Anyway, we get a win, and that stops us looking over our shoulder just too much, because we're at least sitting near the middle of the table. And next we go to Fulham. Always way trips to London, even then and still now, have their own trepidation about them, it's Fulham shouldn't be the side that bothers with, but obviously they do, and we go and play quite well. First half, it's even Steven, and 23 minutes Johnson from Fulham scores and makes it 1-0, and that's how it stays at half time. We have ample opportunity to get back in the game, and sure enough, we start the second half the better side, and on 57 minutes, Shearer heads in to make it a 1-1. But then, typical, we just get back in the game, and on 66 minutes, there's a foul in the penalty area. Zamora's pulled down by Kakapa, and they get a penalty, and Danny Murphy scores from the penalty spot and makes it 2-1. And that's the way it stays to the end. But it's fair to say that they did at least have a go, but not enough. We lose it 2-1, and we're now back looking over our shoulders again at the wrong end of the table. Next game is home game against Wigan, and they're not a side that should be really bothering us that much, but we've got to keep our powder dry, because we're sitting in an uncomfortable position, and another loss would send us to the wrong end of the table. It's Saturday 3:00 kickoff, and we get off to a really poor start. Taylor scores for Wigan on 3 minutes, and that's how it stays at half time. And it looks like Wigan are going to sneak a 1-0 victory. But then on 80 minutes, Michael Owen scores a goal to make it 1-1. 87 minutes, Obafemi Martins makes it 2-1. It looks like we're going to get the victory. Then almost the last kick of the game, a typical somebody on the side that used to play for Newcastle, Titus Bramble scores a beautiful header from nowhere at a corner to make it 2-2. So the end result's 2-2. And it's a fair result. I mean, Wigan really played as well as we did, and could easily, if they hadn't made mistakes, silly mistakes, gone with a win. But thank goodness they did, because we were desperate to get some points on the board. Little bit of nastiness towards the end. Hamdi Bai the fullback, gets booked on our side. but then Boyce and Bramble get involved in all sorts of weird things, pushing and shoving and having a go at Nzogua particularly, and to the point eventually on 60 minutes on the hour, Boyce gets a second yellow card, stupidly fouling Nzogua twice in the space of about 10 seconds, and he gets a red card. So anyway, 2-2 draws, a point on the board, and that's really what matters to us. We're at away to Chelsea. Now this is going to be a tough game because Chelsea are being touted as one of the possible champions this year, and they're a talented side. I mean, it's the only way to describe it. However, we go and yeah, the commentator on this commentates on everything, and I love the way he says admission £45 downstairs, £48 upstairs. Prices unchanged for the fourth season. But what he doesn't say is the massively inflated prices because it's Newcastle United. On a normal Saturday, they would be £30, not 45 or £48. But because it's Newcastle and know they can fill it, they take the mickey and push it up to 45 quid. Bit of a nonsense, but it's an ongoing issue with Chelsea, or at least it has been. Don't know whether it is still now or not. But anyway, we give a good account of ourselves, but it's nobody's going to score the way things are going, 0-0 at half time. Everybody's hoping that we may get a touch of luck in the second half, but it needs given to play quite a good game, and the defence really having a good game to keep Chelsea out. They're really pressing, but press they can. Doesn't matter. We end up 0-0 with a really very creditable draw at Chelsea at this time of the season and the way they had been playing. Chelsea side, check and goal, Boswinga, Ivanovic, Terry, Cole, Mikel, Joe Cole, Andy Cole, of course, the first Cole, Joe Cole, Deco, Lampard, Malouda, and Nelka. And I think that's about the fifth club that has played for in this particular sequence of seasons. We have used the same side given by Colaccini, Basong, Enrique Gutierrez, Jose Enrique Gutierrez, Guthrie, Bud, Duff, Martins, and Owen. And a good draw. They really fought hard for it as well. They weren't going to give it away, which was nice to see. But draws aren't helping at the moment. We're still sliding the wrong way down the league, and we're off now to Middlesbrough for the Tyne Tees derby. Middlesbrough are like ourselves, not having the best of seasons and languishing below the middle. Very, very close to where we are ourselves, and it's a good 3 o'clock kickoff at this Riverside Stadium. A good day for football, but not a good day if you like goals, because it was going to be a 0-0 from you could see from the kickoff what it was going to be like, because there was all sorts of things happening, and but none of them happening to put the ball in the net, which was quite sad. On a personal note, these are games I would always go to because we had family in Middlesbrough and we just used to make a good weekend of it, as well as the football. It's usually the football that spoiled the weekend, but it was 0-0, and both teams tried hard, but never were going to score a goal. Middlesbrough team: Turnbull, Hoyt, Wheater, Potiers, Taylor, Ali Adair, Archer, Dingard, Downing, Sandley, and Alves. And our side unchanged, given by Colaccini, etc., and Nzogua on the left side.
And officially on the day of the game, Joe Kinnear is announced as the manager until the end of the season. So he'd been in on a temporary basis,
Of course,
like
yes.
a stopgap. But to celebrate that wonderful 0-0 draw, we get
Yes.
joking here at the end of the season, George. At
I
least
mean,
that's what we-
yeah. Well, it just, as I say, it just emphasises the chaos of the bloody place, you know,
Yeah.
and never mind the football. And as I say, it was an interesting enough game, but it was one of those games where you just knew nobody was going to score. It was just hitty missy all the time, and but nevertheless, it's a point on the board, especially as we're sitting in a not very good place in terms of the league. The next game is a home game against Stoke City. Now Stoke are, again, like us, they're in the wrong place in the league. They're in the wrong end of the league, and so we're hoping that we can dump them and get higher up the league ourselves. And Saturday game, 3 o'clock kickoff, and we'll have the unchanged side, and Stoke come with Sorensen, Griffin, Andy Griffin, that used to be us, Sonko, Adeboule Fai, again used to be us, Higginbottom, Delap, him of the long throw. Anybody who wants to see a throw taken right and very strongly, Delap's the man. He used to fire it in like it was a corner. Very flat and very fast. And very difficult to cope with sometimes. Amdify, Dio, Pugh, Cresswell, and Sidibe. Not a bad side, but quite a number of people who are going the wrong side of 30 for Stoke, and others who are on their way out rather than on their way in. And but a tidy game, a good game. It looks like we're going to walk this one because on 8 minutes Owen scores, 24 minutes he scores a second. So we're going at half time at 2-0 and everybody's waiting for the explosion after half time to make it secure. Well, the explosion came, but from Stoke, not from us. 60 minutes Sidibe scores, and Abdullah Fai on 90 minutes, the last kick of the game almost, makes it 2-2. Very disappointing because it was a game we had in the bag, and somehow we managed to conjure up a 2-2 draw, which was to say disappointing, is putting it mildly. And again, we're sliding the wrong way is the big worry. We're now away to Portsmouth. Game that we should be winning. Portsmouth aren't great shakes, and they've got an aging side. We should be doing well against these, and we do. It's a good game. It's a game, incidentally, that my family would go to because they had close affinities with Portsmouth. My uncles who were in the Navy and that had always liked the trip to Pompey and see some of their old Navy mates and go to the match as well. Although there were occasions when they got in the pub and never got the bloody match. They just stayed where they were. Anyway, always had a good weekend. And Alfie Holland's bus was always well used that weekend because a heck of a trip to Portsmouth. And we played well from the moment we set off, but we tries we made, we couldn't score, so we went in 0-0 at half time, and it was very, very frustrating that we hadn't scored. But then 52 minutes, Owen scores, 77 Martin scores, then 89 minutes Danny Guthrie scores, and we've got a 3-0 victory, which was thoroughly deserved, I've got to say. Unchanged team for us. And the Portsmouth team, well, look at the names. James, Liverpool goalkeeper, Palmer, Campbell's centre half, Portsmouth is Sol Campbell, of course. Diston, who used to be us, Bihad, Mbemba, Davis, Hughes, Crankier, Crouch, and Defoe. Now, Crouch is Peter Crouch, of course, and on his way down rather than anywhere else. And Jermaine Defoe comes in and is to make up their front line. some dangerous players, but on the wrong side of where they should be. Didn't bother us, as I say, 3-0 and an easy 3-0 away from home, which was a great relief to everybody because it meant we're climbing the right way up as for a change. Then we're home to Tottenham Hotspur, 21st of December, Saturday, 3:00 kickoff, and a really tidy game. Spurs playing quite well, and so are we. But it's a nice football game. Conditions are good for football as well, and end-to-end stuff. Nzoglu at 12 minutes puts you in the lead. Everybody's happy about that. And then little Modric, the guy who plays for Tottenham, who Ashley wouldn't sign for us because he didn't think he was big enough. Went on to win about 5 European Cup medals with Real Madrid, but never mind. That says you something about Ashley's knowledge of football. Modric equalised, and it looked like it was going to peter out as 1-1. And then, for once, Damien Duff, brilliant dribbler of the ball, tidy footballer. Well, on this occasion, the dribble worked out, and he just skated through the Spurs defence with almost the last touch of the game to make it 2-1 to us. And that was a bit of a surprise because people were expecting Spurs to turn us over because of the way we'd been playing. But we got it. It was a 2-1 win, and never looked like being anything else. And importantly for us, it pushed us right to the right end of the league, and the 50,000 crowd. So the fans haven't lost faith, despite what's happening off the pitch and so on. Next, we're away to Wigan Athletic, and it's a game we should be winning. There's no question about that. But what we should and shouldn't do, two different things. Decent first half, but we're not really in it. And then on 29 minutes, Taylor scores. 73 minutes, Murphy scores for Wigan, so we're 2-0 down. And then on 88 minutes, Guthrie scores a penalty after Mike Lowen being brought down, and 2-1. So it's for Wigan, it's panic stations for the last 5 minutes because Newcastle really have a go at us. But have a go or not, it doesn't result in anything other than the 2-1 loss that we expected. An unchanged team for us. Viduka's in the side, and because of injuries. Wigan, Kirkland, Melchior, Bramble, Sharna, Figueroa, Valencia, Catamol, Palacios, Taylor, Heskey, and Zaki. Good side and good players, but on the wrong side of the game as far as doing things, and we really should have done better than we did. But 2-1 loss at Wigan has made us look over our shoulders again, which is never a comfortable thing to be doing anyway. And so the next game is home game to Liverpool. Liverpool, one of the favourites to win the title. They're in the top.
And an interesting prelude to this game, George. Mike Ashley, prior to this game, announces that Newcastle United is no longer up for sale.
Yes, and one of these long interviews with promises for all kinds of things, which came back to haunt him because every time anything happened, he was reminded about this interview.
It was with David. It was with David Craig as well, wasn't it? Because he was doing all
Yes.
the local interviews at the time, and it was very much looked upon as an interview with somebody who he was probably good mates with.
Yes, and as I say, he didn't just announce that it was for sale. He announced what he was going to do, and this was going to change, and that was going to change. And but I have to say, by now, you see this stage of Newcastle United. By now, there were 10 of us used to go to the match together. 10 season ticket holders, including our Neil. We're now at the stage where 5 of them have decided they'll never come back again until
Wow.
Ashley's gone. Until Ashley's gone. And
Incredible.
what was the catalyst for that? Well,
Mike Ashley.
well, yes, but the catalyst was we used to go in and have our lunch before the match
Yeah.
in 92. And some of the lads used to like their fish and chips. They went to get their fish and chips, and they said, "What about the mushy peas?" And the lad behind the counter said, "Can't give you mushy peas." Why can't he give you mushy peas? Ashley wouldn't buy the plastic container to put them in. And one of them come close to pelting his knife and fork up the way by it in 92. He was so angry. And that was the catalyst for them saying, that's it.
Crazy.
He's taking the mickey out, you know. Five disappeared at that juncture. So we come to Liverpool at St James's Park, and 28th of December. I'm glad it was not the 26th because that's my birthday. But what a hammering this was. They really took us apart. And the reporter says the conditions were crushing. It certainly were. This was a real defeat. Young Edgar came into the side at fullback, and otherwise the team was virtually unchanged. But we just 31 minutes. Gerard Hippier at 36 with a header. Just after half time, Edgar gets one back. Babel scores on 50. Gerard again on 66. And Alonso, a penalty on 77, makes it 5-1. It could have been double that. Liverpool was so in the ascendancy and really did give us the run around. It was miserable. I mean, we could see the things staring in the face in this game that they were to come back and haunt us because they just tore us apart. Which we hadn't seen. We'd seen some bad games, but this was, in my view, one of the worst of that season because we really got the run around. Awful. And the knowledge that Ashley was here for the duration didn't help either. We're next away to it's the FA Cup third round, and we draw Hull City. We go to KC Stadium. Other thing that this report puts on, he always puts the admissions on. Now, I've just read a Chelsea one where the admissions was £45. At Hull, £24. It's amazing the difference of clubs, but never mind. KC Stadium, and we go and look like we're going to have a go at this, but half time is 0-0 because nobody can hit the net, hit the goal. But the second half gets depressing because it becomes a who doesn't want to lose rather than who wants to win, and it's 10 men back behind the ball both sides. It was never ever going to be a result in this game other than a 0-0, and that's how it stayed. It was pretty miserable. Given Colaccini, Basong, Taylor, Enrique Duff, Guthrie, Butt, and Zogia, Owen, and Carroll, Hull, Duke, Doyle, Turner, McShane, Ricketts, Fagan, Giannopoulos, Botang, Marnie, Giovanni, and Cousin. A tidy side, but not a side that should be troubling us. But a miserable 0-0 at the end. But at least we're still in the cup. That's the important thing, I suppose. The next game is a home game against West Ham. The return game against West Ham. Bear in mind the away game we got turned over. We hopefully going to get something out of the game, and West Ham, a strong team, but a little bit stronger this time because they've got Bellamy in the forward line as well. So to taunt with a little bit. Green, Neil, Collins, Upson, Ilunga, Bambury, Parker, Noble, Collinson, Cole, and Bellamy. On our side, Given, Taylor, Colaccini, Basong, Enrique, Gutierrez, Enrique Gutierrez, Guthrie, Jeremy, Carroll, Owen, and Duff. And it's not a bad game. First half, even Stephen. Owen on 19 minutes puts one in the lead. 29 minutes, Bellamy, of course it would be Bellamy, equalises for West Ham. And it's quite an enjoyable football game. Then we come out after half time, and on 55 minutes, Joe Cole with a free kick makes it 2-1 to West Ham. And it looks like we're going to struggle. And then on 78 minutes, Andy Carroll scores a beautiful volley from the edge of the penalty area to make it 2-2. So we get a point at least to stick on the board, but there would never ever sign that we were going to win that one. It was always going to be a draw, I think. The next game, of course, is the return with Hull City for the cup replay at St James's, and everybody thinks, well, this is a formality. Well, it doesn't pay to think like that. It's Newcastle United. We start off well, but can't hit the net. 0-0 at half time, and it looks like it might end up with an extra time because the players drab and looks like 0-0 all over it. But then a shocking marking from a corner, and their centre forward Cousin, a dangerous lad when he's on his form, and he was in this game, makes it 1-0 on 81 minutes, and the stirrings from the crowd didn't reach the pitch because Newcastle didn't look as though they were even interested in getting back in the game. It really was a miserable loss, this one, and we're out the cup basically, and to Hull City, which was more than depressing. Our side unchanged, no reason to blame changing the team, and Hull decided virtually played us at Hull with the addition of this lad Cousin that they'd bought from one of the Manchesters, I think, and turned out he was a good buy. Well, he got them through the cup in this one. So at 1-0 loss, we're out of the cup, which is depressing, putting it mildly. Then we're away in the league to Blackburn Rovers. It's a game we should be winning, but what we should and shouldn't be doing are two different things. And at Ewood Park, and conditions, according to the reporter, catastrophic, he says. I think that tells you more about what's coming in the game. A game in which, again, we turn up but don't really play. It's difficult to understand. Whereas Blackburn clearly wanted to win this game, where he didn't even look interested, as to put it bluntly. The only player that seemed to want to be involved was Joey Barton, and of course, typical Joey gets so involved, he ends up getting booked because he's kicking everything that moves. And miserable first half, 0-0. Second half, Blackburn come out, they changed their formation a little bit with Dunn for Samba and Santa Cruz for McCarthy. So two attackers for two defenders says what they're going to try and do, and they did. The second half, they tore us to pieces. McCarthy scored on a penalty on 61, Roberts on 66, and Roberts on 86. They're attacking centre forward. And 3-0 loss at Ewood Park really was quite depressing, because we should be beating Blackburn. They were down the bottom end like we were, and we should, places where we should be picking up points. And now, seriously, people are starting to look over their shoulder at the bottom of the league, because it's getting ever closer indeed. And it's not where we want to be at all. So next game is an away game at Manchester City. Now, if you want to recover in bad form, going to Manchester City is not the best place to go, because always have a tough time there. And conditions, according to the report, are catastrophic once again. He says, well, catastrophic it is, the unchanged team. The Manchester City team is Hart, Richards, Unoa, Company, Bridge, Zabaleta, Ireland, De Jong, Wright, Phillips, Rubino, and Bellamy. At the moment, Bellamy's following all over the place. And, well, we don't do too bad first half. We go 1-0 down from a Wright, Phillips header. But it looks like we've got the spirit to come back. And we do. We get an own goal. Peter Lovenkran's goal. He comes on as a sub, and it looks like we might get a draw. But then 77 minutes. Who would it be to score the winning goal for the opposition? Bellamy, the ex Newcastle player, and Manchester City run out 2-1 winners. Not what we anticipated. We thought we might have a harder time than that, but still a loss nonetheless, and put us back in the position of going in the wrong direction in the league. So then we come back from Manchester with a defeat, and to face the return leg of the derby with the Mackhams, and Sunday game 1:30 kick-off. Sides, Steve Harper's in goal because Keegan's injured. It's Harper, Taylor, Basson, Colaccini, Jose Enrique, Gutierrez, Bud, Nolan, Duff, Carroll, and Amiobi. And they're Sunderland, Fulham, Bardsley, Ferdinand, Collins, McCartney, Edwards, Whitehead, Richardson, Malbranc, Sissy, and Jones. Bardsley at fullback, I've got to say, as a personal thing, I've never seen that lad play football when he's gone off the pitch, when I thought he should have been sent off. Never seen anybody who mistimes tackled like he does. And he was like that wherever he played. And I always used to think, well, how on earth is he getting away with that? Time and time again. He wasn't just late. He was disastrous. He was. Anyway, it might just be a personal thing, but I think anybody checks, they'll find that Bardsley was. If you wanted somebody to foul anybody, Bardsley was your man. So Fulham, Bardsley, Ferdinand, Collins, McCartney, Edwards, Whitehead, Richardson, Malbranc, Sissy, and Jones, and because Michael Chopper was with them then, he was a substitute in that match and came on in 55 minutes. And in 32 minutes, Sissy scored for them, and it looked like we might struggle to get back in the game. And then, lo and behold, at a quarter, Ferdinand pulled down Shola Miyobi, who stood up and scored the penalty, 69 minutes. So 1-1. It wasn't the disaster we thought it might be. 53,000 at the game, which is virtually full house, and a 1-1 draw, which gives both teams points because at that moment in time, we had the dire problem that if things kept going the way they were, that relegation would be the three northeast sides, Newcastle, Sunderland, and Middlesbrough, because we're all playing in dire straits at that particular time. The next game is the away game at West Brom. Now, West Brom not brilliant, but not a bad side, but a side we should at least get a draw out of. And lo and behold, we do. We have a real go at this one. And Damien Duff 2 minutes puts in the lead, and then Fortune on 4 minutes for them makes it 1-1. Lovenkran's on 9 minutes makes it 2-1. And we think, oh well, we're gonna go with this. And then just before half time, Stephen Taylor scores one of his rare goals from a corner, and it's going at half time at 3-1, and everybody's happy. Can't lose from that, surely. Well, we do our best because Tottenham come out and really turn inside out. And Fortune again scores on 73. But they just haven't got enough to get the equaliser, thank goodness. and we come away with a 3-2 victory, which huge sigh of relief, because it's pushing us in the right direction at long last in terms of the league.
And that game was unbelievably Joe Kinnear's last game in charge of Newcastle, because he underwent a triple heart bypass after that game, George.
Yes,
and we were then in a kind of like, well, just a mess. It seemed to be a mess all season, but we were in this incredible position where we didn't know whether he was coming back, if he was coming back, and we didn't seem to move quickly enough to try and get anybody in. So for this period, we're actually going through without a manager, without a recognised manager.
He was in hospital in Birmingham for quite a while, wasn't he? I mean, it was never going to be an easy thing. And it just added to the whole mess that it was temporary again. It was
crazy.
Just awful. It reflects on how little in terms of football that Ashley and his mates knew. They just were not in touch with it at all. Next game is a home game against Everton. Everton are middle of the table, slightly higher than us, but we should be challenging them. But it's a predictable one team like us near the bottom, really bumping along the bottom, and Everton just in the middle. And it's a case of they don't want to lose. So it's two teams of 10 men behind the ball, and pretty dire stuff. Half-time 0-0. Doesn't look like anybody's going to do anything second half, and final whistle 0-0 as well. Interestingly enough, 47,000 at the game. And but a pretty miserable game is my memory. And Everton with their usual side: Howard, Jagielka, Yobo, Lescott, Baines, Gosling, who eventually came to us, Neville, Arteta, Rodwell, who eventually went to Mackems and fleeced the Mackems for a bloody fortune because they couldn't get him on the pitch, and Antiobi and Job. And by now, Peter Lovenkrands is in the team, and we've got Kevin Nolan and in the team, and Ryan Taylor's a fixture as well. So some changes for us, but a miserable 0-0. That's the only way to describe it. And then we're away to Bolton Wanderers. We should be challenging Bolton Wanderers. I mean, they're like us, rattling around the bottom of the league. They're 2 places below halfway, and difference in points is minimal. So we should be giving these a go to get those points back. But nah, it's a one where we don't really turn up. It's 0-0 at half time. It looks like it stayed at the end, as we never looked like scoring, so neither did they. But then on 47 minutes, just after half time, Gardner, their big defender, goes on from Mumba into the midfield, and from a corner he blasts unstoppable shot past Harper to make it on 47 minutes, make it 1-0 to Bolton. And that's the way it stayed. It never looked like it would change, certainly from our point of view. And pretty miserable sort of day for Newcastle fans, because once Bolton got the goal, there was no way it looked like we were ever going to get back into the game. And of course, last thing you want after a defeat at a place like Bolton is a match against Manchester United. But that's what we've got, and we've got the home game against Manchester United. Now, bearing in mind what they did to us at Old Trafford, they're going to be a difficult horse to ride for us anyway. But after that, we know we're in for a fairly tough time. And the surprising thing is we aren't. We actually do have a go at this game. And it's opens brightly. Peter Lovencrown scores a lovely goal on the run to make it 1-0, and it looks like that's how it might stay. But at 20 minutes, bit of magic from Rooney, and it's 1-1, and that's how it goes in at half time. Second half's end-to-end stuff, and both teams could have scored, had chances to score, but in the end, it was Didier Berbatov, the very talented, clever centre forward. Well, forward, you never knew where he played because he played all over, but very talented player. On 56 minutes makes it 2-1, and that's how it stayed. There's no way we were going to get another goal after that, and Manchester United win 2-1, and of course they're sitting top of the league. I mean, this is them cementing where they are and putting us in dire straits, really, and looking over our shoulders again. So we now have another game against Hull City, but because of the cup matches, of course, we've seen a lot of them. But we should be going to Hull, the KC Stadium, and expecting a win. But Newcastle being Newcastle, 9 minutes Giovanni scores for Hull. 38 minutes Stephen Taylor gets a header at a corner, and it's 1-1 at half time. Second half, it doesn't look like anybody could hit a barn door, never mind the goal, and it ends 1-1. But at least it's a point. But Hull really a really old side in the sense that, I mean, you got Ricketts, Turner, Gardner, Kilban from ex-Sunderland, who are all in their late 30s. I mean, we're not talking about youngsters. Mendy, Ashby, Zialetta, Giovanni, Fagan, who's another one that's well into his 30s, and this lad cousin who turned us over the last time we played them in the cup. But Giovanni on 9 minutes, Taylor on 38, 1-1, and that's how it stayed. It never looked like it'd be anything else. But we're more than looking over our shoulder now, because this is a place we should be winning games, and Hull are actually right next to us. So winning that game against Hull would have shoved us 2 or 3 places up the table, but it didn't happen, unfortunately. And the next game is a home game against Arsenal, and again, this very talented side from Arsenal are up there at the top. They come third in the league in this on this particular Saturday, and obviously they want to win it and come out and show that they do want to win it. There's no doubt about that. But we some brilliant goalkeeping by Stephen Harper, keeps 1-0 at half time, and some brilliant defending from Colaccini and Stephen Taylor, keeps it 0-0 at half time. Then on 57 minutes, Bentner, the talented centre forward, 57 minutes, he makes it 1-0 to Arsenal. Then Remy Martins, a minute later, first chance he gets the ball, it's 1-1 on 58 minutes. 64, Diaby makes it 2. Then 67, Nasri dribbles through the defence and makes it 3-1. So that's Arsenal really, really cementing their position at the top of the league and pushing us further the wrong way. The next game is Chelsea.
And a new man in the dugout, George.
Yes. Just about to say that persuaded to give it a go. I've never talked to Alan Shearer about that, but I wonder if he ever regrets doing that. But anyway, he give it a go, and was singularly let down by certain players, I think, as a manager, and players who were looking after themselves rather than Newcastle United or Alan Shearer, in my view. But never mind, he's in the dugout. Chelsea come as one of the teams at the top of the league, looking possible that they might actually win it. And in fact, on this day that they come, they're actually second in the league. And so they're not going to give this game away. Half time 0-0, largely because we're hanging on by the skin of our teeth, and Steve Harper's playing out of his skin. And after half time, Lampard 56, Malouda on 65, and it's a 2-0 win to Chelsea. And the 52,000 full house go home without any doubt, realising that the mess that we're in and the seriousness of the mess we're in, because we're now sliding right to the bottom. We're only, I think we're second or third bottom after this result. And as I say, feeling of being let down by certain senior players in the club at that time. At least I was, anyway. Then we away to Stoke City, and it was a funny. I remember this game because for April there was throughout the game the most appalling rainstorm. I mean, everything and everybody was absolutely soaking wet. And the commentator, of course, who always talks about everything, including the price of entry, makes the comment: admission £30, last season £20. So you can get the digging about the Britannia Stadium. But it was an awful wet night. But awful or not, we're giving it something of a go. And Abdoulaye Faye scores for Stoke on 33 minutes, so they go in 1-0 at half time. The second half, Newcastle really give it a go, and then particularly Andy Carroll makes Stoke defenders' life a misery, and succeeds on 81 minutes in scoring an equaliser. So he compounds the misery for Stoke by getting the equaliser, which is important, more important for us than it is for them, because they're safer in the league than we are. As I say, we're sliding well below halfway. In fact, we're in the bottom three, and there's a bit of spirit in this game, generated by Andy Cole's spirit, really. So the next game is an away game at Tottenham. Now, if you're wanting points, Tottenham's not the best place to be going for, especially as they're significantly higher than us. I mean, we're third bottom and they're eighth, nearer the top. So it's not going to be easy, but anyway we go, and got to give them credit. They really do have a try. But on 24 minutes, Bent scores for them. They make it 1-0. That's how it go in at half time. And but second half we really try, and it stays at 1-0. And again, Steve Harper playing out of his skin, but also Stephen Taylor in defence, really giving it his all. And again, Andy Carroll up front, making life miserable for Spurs defenders, but not miserable enough to get an equaliser, unfortunately. So we come away with a 1-0 loss, and pushes us, unfortunately, again in the totally in the wrong direction. Next game is a home game against Portsmouth. Now this has got to be a game we win. If we have any hope of changing our fortunes, Portsmouth certainly are a team we should be turning over, and because they're a point above us, and a win against them really reverses things, puts them in where we are. Well, it's a very, very dour game. 0-0 at half time, 0-0 at full time. And I think if they played another 2 days, neither side would have scored. It was awful in terms of football and in terms of goal scoring. Absolutely dreadful. And 48,000 at the game, but nobody, including Andy Carroll, couldn't couldn't stick the ball in the net for it, and they couldn't either. So miserable 0-0, but at least it was a point, something. There's a reporter on here says conditions barren. Well, yeah, Newcastle fan certainly was barren. It's interesting though, in terms of the news at the moment, that the substitute goalkeeper for Portsmouth on this day was a man called Bergovich. Now, last week, rumours were that the same Bergovich was being released as 39-year-old goalkeeper from Norwich City, I think it was, and being offered to Newcastle United, which I found quite interesting. In fact, now that we're doing these bits of this season, their names have crop up who are still in the game. You know, like Scott Carson, the goalkeeper for Manchester City, and yet he's still hanging around, and he's getting towards his 40s. You know, so anyway, next game is away game at Liverpool. Now you're battling for points, and you desperately want a victory. Well, the last place you want to be going is Anfield, I would suggest. And sure enough, that's how it turned out. We went and there's. I would never say they didn't try. They did. They tried very, very hard. Unfortunately, wasn't enough. Liverpool, Ben Ayoun and Kite, 22 and 27 minutes, and we never looked like we would score. And then Lucas on 88 minutes makes it 3-0 to Liverpool. But it was Liverpool's game. We weren't really in it at any time of the game. It was a Liverpool home game, and they were going to make the best of it. The only controversial thing where there was a couple of bookings on our side, Colaccini and Smith, and the debate afterwards was they were both booked because they were arguing with each other, not with Liverpool players. So that tells you how things were in the dressing room at that time. And but Liverpool 3-0 easy winners, and really pushing us to where we didn't feel comfortable in the relegation places. The next game is the home game against Middlesbrough. Now, as I said earlier, Middlesbrough are desperate for points as well, because we're at a point of the season where just a couple of weeks before this, Middlesbrough, Sunderland and Newcastle could all have gone down together. That was a real possibility. But we pulled our socks up for this one. It was a Monday afternoon game because it was a holiday, 3:00 kickoff. And conditions pulse quickening, says the reporter. Well, they were, because we needed the points desperately. And we got off to a terrible start. Fullback by heads into his own goal. Supposed to be heading back to Steve Harper. Well, he did, but in the top corner instead of into Harper's hands. And there was 3 minutes and we're a goal down. With 9 minutes, and Stephen Taylor gets the one from a corner to equalise. 71 minutes, Martin scores a cracker to make it 2-1. And Lovenkrands on 86 scores a nice, tidy goal. And we're beating Middlesbrough 3-1. And we're desperate for that, because at least it pushes us closer to them and to others in the bottom. And a 52,000 full house gives you an idea of how important it all was. The next game is a home game against Fulham. Now, this is the one that really matters. If we could win this one, it might actually get us out of the bottom three. Just remember, we're in the season where 3 people go down, not 2. Well, it's just an absolute disaster. We play appallingly in the first half, and it's 0-0. Suits Fulham because they're not in any particular danger. They're mid better than mid-table, so it doesn't bother Fulham. So they 0-0 suits them. But then just before the final whistle, just before half time, Kamara scores for Fulham, makes it 1-0, and everybody's hoping that second half will really give it a go and get it back, but we don't. It just is abject surrender is how I would describe it. Never seen a Newcastle team kind of give in the way that they did in that game against Fulham. So we're now really in relegation trouble in the sense that we're in the bottom three, and we now have an away game at Aston Villa, which will be remembered for all sorts of things. Not least for me, the attitude of some of our senior players, including certain Michael Owen and Viduka, to name but two, who didn't seem interested in the slightest. And it was an easy win for Aston Villa, compounded by the fact there was a stupid own goal by Damien Duff, it sealed it, and then we got all the sub on the Tyne and the other stuff from the Aston Villa fans, which hasn't done anything for relations between the fans. But we've always had a love-hate relationship with Villa, even back in the 40s when they stole our manager George Martin, from under our directors' noses. It kind of set the two clubs against each other. So there's been a feeling there, but this one really did cement some really bad feelings, and even now I think you could see the sub on the Tyne things coming back. I mean, when we walloped them 5-1 the beginning of the last season, there were lots of told you so's from people all over the ground. So 1-0 loss, and it meant that we finished third bottom, and that meant, together with West Brom and Middlesbrough, we went down to the second division. Sunderland escaped by 2 points. We got 34, they got 36, and in between Sunderland and us was Hull. But Middlesbrough and West Brom 32 points. We had 34, and Sunderland got 36, 2 more than us. Goals for is always the thing I look at when sort of trouble. 40 for a whole season. Top goal scorer Owen with 10. That speaks for itself. It says how miserable we've been. So a desperate end to a desperate season of total chaos, both on and off the field, with managers coming and going. And then the chaos at the end when Alan Shearer says that he shook hands with Mike Ashley on a deal to continue to be manager. But the papers never arrived. It's Shearer's lawyer, and in fact, I don't think he ever spoke to Ashley again, even though he made it known that he'd actually agreed a deal with Ashley that he would come back and manage the side in the second division, but didn't happen. However, as we'll see in later times, fortunes did change a little bit, but a really, really tragic season, unnecessarily so. Self-inflicted in my view, but the bit that I still sticks in my craw is the attitude of 3 or 4 what I'd call senior players, like Michael Owen, like Mark Viduka, who played for themselves, not for Newcastle United, certainly not for Shearer, and not for the fans, and that's unforgivable. And I think that reflects on how people's attitude to Michael Owen anyway. But he doesn't help himself with some of the things he says about it. But it was, chaos is how I said it at the beginning, and chaos is how we finished.
Well, thank you, George, for taking us through that. And when you listen to a season like that, George, and I guess when you review a season like that, it just makes you thankful for where we are now. We might not have a trophy, but we're a million miles away from that situation now, and that's the thing we should always be thankful for.
Yeah, and what we've got now that we didn't have any of then was hope.
Yeah.
You know, if we've got nothing else at the moment, as I often say on the other platforms, I relish this takeover because it's given me my club back. It's
Yeah.
given me the hope that something might happen. That kind of season that we've just talked about gives you the opposite. And as I say, the 10 of us that went to the football together, that end of that season, we're down to 2, me and Neil. the other eight,
Incredible.
the other 8 have gone and have never come back. You know, that even though they said they would come back when Ashley went, well, they've never been able to get a ticket, which is quite sad. In fact, there's some of the people that I scramble around with John and them to get tickets for to see if they can get them into a game. But yeah, 10 of it. Imagine the money that we used to spend. We used to go in for the lunch before the match. As soon as Barty in 92 opened, the lads would have their pints at half time. They'd come out and would have their tea, hamburger, or whatever was on served after the match, and watch the afternoon game on the telly because they used to let you do that then, and stay drinking. Then I would take them all home. I reckon, you know, out of the 10 of it, they must have got the thick end of $1,000 for our Saturday football, and yet it all went out the window because of, in my penny pinching and stupidity, and you know, certainly no customer service. And as I say, I'd see those lads quite often, and one of them, the big Turkish lad, the Turkish professor Mehmet Atler, who's now a professor in Strathclyde. Occasionally he likes to come down, and if we can get Mehmet a ticket, we do. But he used to love going. It was great. But yeah, chaotic, miserable, horrible. Don't want it anymore. let's have a bit of Amanda. That's better for us at the moment.
Well, let's hope the next one we do is a bit happier, George. But thanks for doing
Yes.
it as always, mate. It's a pleasure having you on.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody. Enjoy.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find their website at skipsandbins.com. Contact us, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to United Group Travel. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners in 2024. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts. You can find them at www.media-arts.co.uk. And don't forget, we are a podcast. You can find us on iTunes or Spotify or other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel grow, then hit the like button, the little thumb underneath the video, click share and share to your social media, or join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to take out a one-off payment membership, go to nufcmatters.com and hit membership. And for a £25 fee, you get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. You can also put a smartphone over the top of this QR code. It'll take you straight there. And don't forget, we also help the food bank on this channel. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is a website where you can make a virtual donation today.